Okay, continuing on here with part 4, I believe, of TBS and his historical analysis.
Fun fact about John, and I say this because you made it a point in your video of arguing against the reliability of Gnostic texts, is that even though it's not considered a Gnostic piece by you or other Christians, it was by the Gnostics. In fact, a lot of the times that we found early manuscripts of John, it was compiled along with and alongside other Gnostic Gospels and Gnostic texts. And if you open John up, it has a lot of pro-Gnostic themes in there. You just have to look for them. It starts off.
Yeah, pro-Gnostic themes. The Word became flesh. Let's go to 1 John, why don't we, who the same author wrote 1 John that wrote the Gospel of John. He who does not confess that Jesus Christ came in the flesh is the Antichrist. Guess who he's writing that against? A fun fact for you, TBS. He's writing that against the Gnostics. Yes. So the Gnostics took that wonderful Gospel of John that says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, that talks about how the soldier pierced his side and that the blood and water flowed out. Why do you think that that's mentioned in the Gospel of John, TBS? Why do you think that that's mentioned in there? The piercing of the side and the blood and water flowing out. You think Gnostics would like that very much, seeing that Jesus bled? I mean, you need to study subjects before you make videos like this. Okay, you look really dumb, the people that have studied the subject. It just looks so, you look so absurd. Now, there are themes in John that are similar to how Gnostics talked. Light and darkness, life and death. But John polemics against the Gnostics. And then you talk about how in John 1:1, that's Gnostic. You're going to say that. How that's very Gnostic. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Is that really Gnostic? He uses the Logos. Yes, Gnostic like the Logos. Let's keep moving on here.
Right with the first verse, saying that Jesus was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's very Gnostic-ish.
Yeah, very Gnostic-ish. It's also very Genesis chapter 1-ish. How did God create the universe in Genesis chapter 1? Did he clap his hands? I'm sorry. It's seriously like the Banana Man. It's like, look at a jar of peanut butter and evolution, and that will disprove evolution. It's like that. This argumentation. What John is doing is he's taking Gnostic phrases and words and using it against them. That's what he's doing. John 1:1 all the way is Jewish. The root of it is Jewish. Now it polemics against Greek philosophical thinking, like the Gnostics is one group that it's going against. But it is the Gospel of John is saying so many things that Gnostics would never accept. Never. So, Genesis chapter 1. Read it. How did God create the universe according to the Hebrew Scriptures? Let there be light. God said His Word. Psalm 33, God creates the universe. God sends His Word. How did God speak through the prophets? He sent His Word. Guess what in the Septuagint that Greek word is? It's Logos. Yep. God sends His Logos. It's Hebrew. It's Jewish. Now, it goes into Greek philosophy as well. The Greek early church fathers that are Greek will take that up and kind of try to parallel that to the Logos in Greek philosophy, which I think is a little off, but they try to do that. But it's Hebrew through and through. So let's keep moving on here.
Having said all of that, one more thing about John. John is the only gospel of the 4 canonized gospels in which Jesus actually makes the claim in question that He's God.
Really? Is that true? Matthew never has Jesus make the claim that he's God? Mark. Jesus goes and forgives a man's sins. What is the Pharisees' response? Who can forgive sins but God alone? And Jesus says, here, I'm going to demonstrate to you that I have the authority on earth. What John and the synoptics stress is Jesus and God are connected. Jesus bears the very authority of God as the Son of God. He is the Son of God who is equal to God in authority in all four of them, all four of the Gospels. Now, John does bring it out in a more fuller way. He develops it theologically. But when Jesus says, no man knows the Father except the Son, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and those whom the Son chooses to reveal him, that is a claim to implicit deity. The things Jesus does when he forgives sins, he's saying, just as the presence of God was in the temple to forgive sins, now it's in the presence in a physical temple to forgive sins. Now it's in a physical body. The presence of God is in a physical body, me. There's so many places where Jesus implicitly claims to be the Son of God with the authority of God himself. When he says to the high priest, and the high priest asks him, are you the Son of the Blessed One? And he says, I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of God. And the high priest tears his robe. Why does he do that? Because he knows he's claiming to have the authority of God himself. Jesus had a high self-awareness, and most scholars acknowledge that. Did he claim directly to be God? He didn't in John. Well, there's John 8:58. But he implicitly claims to have the authority of God himself, walking around, forgiving sins, doing things that only God can do, reforming the law of God itself. Let's keep moving on here.
Just something to think about. So,
we thought about it.
Scenario. Given all of that, given what we just learned today about the Gospels, let's switch our scenario around a little bit because we have some editing to do now. Let's say that only one of our four friends actually even knows somebody who was an eyewitness, and the other three of our friends are just borrowing and retelling that same story that they heard from our first friend, and possibly borrowing from other friends of theirs who we've actually never met. Now, obviously, the scenario.
Nope. We have 27 documents. They were in contact with hundreds, if not thousands of people in the early church that were in contact with the apostles. They were in contact with Christ himself. The documents go back to the first generation. So now we have only one friend that knows a friend of a friend of a friend in the telephone. Not it. Okay, we'll continue on here with part 5 next. God bless.